Escape from Hell Island is a 1963 pulp thriller set along the Florida Straits, where a sea captain accepts a job that invites all kinds of trouble aboard his ship. Informed by the Cold War tensions of its time, this film was directed by its star, Mark Stevens, a veteran of the film noir genre of the 40s and 50s. Escape from Hell Island also features the big screen debut of Jack Donner. In a harbor in Key West, Florida, Captain James is a modest mariner trying to put his past behind him. He's approached to charter a round trip that will bring the boat off the coast of Fidel Castro's Cuba, so that he might retrieve a handful of refugees desperate to escape. The captain meets up with the refugees, including the client's daughter Linda and her husband Lyle. Linda is grateful for the rescue, but Lyle's jealousy boils to the surface, inspiring him to hire out the captain for a short cruise, a one-way trip, to a standoff on the high seas. Escape from Hell Island is based on the novel The Man in the Water by Robert Sheckley, who achieved his greatest successes in the science fiction genre. Between his short story collections, novels, teleplays, and collaborations, Sheckley would enjoy a prolific and celebrated career through 5 decades, receiving the Author Emeritus title by the Science Fiction and Fantasy Writers of America in 2001. Among the movies derived from his stories include The 10th Victim, Free Jack, and Condor Man. But there are no spaceships or dystopian futures in Sheckley's Man in the Water, just 2 men on a boat, facing off Hemingway style. Which is probably why Crown International went with the more exciting title. Even if the island escape is done in the first half hour of the film, and we never step foot on Cuban soil. The rest of the movie is a long setup toward the Man in the Water of the novel's title. I have to tell you this because a little foreshadowing would have gone a long way to building up the standoff, instead of feeling like the movie's still going on an hour after the plot supposedly ended. Ultimately, your mileage will vary based on how much you latch onto our hero, who seems to be channeling Humphrey Bogart, circa Key Largo or To Have and Have Not. If you like your heroes hard-boiled, this movie shows you why Mark Stevens was a reliable presence in the genre. In fact, the captain feels like a continuation of some of those noir characters' lives, scarred but alive and trying to stay that way. He's a soldier between wars, enjoying his place in the sun, until Lyle claws and snarls his way in front, trying to Nicolas Cage before Cage was even born. It takes a while for him to get to that point, and we get just a hint of it, but it's a good enough contrast to our taciturn tough guy. This film's got violence on a bloodless TV level, including death by a machine gun and fishing spear. No cheesecake in this movie. Even the center of our love triangle, Linda, seems to disappear in the story without making that much of an impact. Escape from Hell Island is a low-budget movie that feels more like a TV show, and an imperfect one at that. While no one involved is contributing their strongest efforts here, this movie still provides a decent showcase for what our leads could do when they had the spotlight. Born Richard William Stevens, Mark Stevens received his professional pseudonym in the 40s during his tenure in the noir films of the time, along with the occasional musical or war flick. In the 50s, he pivoted to television, taking the lead in 2 series. He also became a director, then a would-be mogul, starting several production companies. But by 1962, he was bankrupt, divorced, and career-wise, adrift. A few years after completing Escape from Hell Island, he was calling Majorca, Spain home, and would for his remaining years. For his contributions to television history, he received a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. While this movie was in the autumn of Mark Stevens' career, it was an early role for Jack Donner, playing Lyle, the jealous husband. Television would afford many opportunities for Donner to shine, most memorably as the Romulan sub-commander Tal on the original Star Trek series. But in 1970, a debilitating disease would sideline him from the cameras, seemingly ending his career. He would recover, becoming a teacher and psychoanalyst, and return to full-time acting in the 90s, becoming busier than ever. Donner would become a genre mainstay for another 3 decades. To save you frustration, don't watch Escape from Hell Island like a movie. Watch it like a couple of episodes of the Captain James Show. The first episode's the action episode, the second episode's the soap opera, and the third episode is the tense one-on-one showdown. Broken down like that, you get your setups and payoffs to end up with 3 sufficient short stories. And for anyone wanting to flex their video editing muscles, here's how you turn it into a more satisfying movie experience. Pinch a minute or so from the last act, move it to the first scene. What does the audience need to know at the start of the film to set up the questions that the ending can answer? Which minute would you choose?